So we are talking Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime, which is obviously... Sorry, let me get that vaguely in frame. There we go. Which is obviously it was a very famous book at the time, around sort of the early 2000s. I read it, I think. So around that time I was about 14, 15 when it came out, I think. And I can't remember exactly when I read it, but I don't think I was much older than that, maybe 16, 17. I had a few memories of the book. God, the lighting is bad. Hold on. Is that better? I'll let you guys be the judge. I think it's slightly better. Although you can see more of my face, so pass. I read it when I was about 15, 16, I want to say. And obviously I'm in a very different position life-wise now than I am then. So now I have 3 children. Actually, my eldest is not much younger than the protagonist in the book, and so I see this very much through a different light, different lens than I did when I first read it. And to be honest, there were only a very few sort of snippets of text that I actually remembered. But I remember it being quite easy to read, quite quick to read. I would say that is definitely true. It's a very short book. I don't even know if it's a novel. I don't know. It might well be a novella. I'd have to look up how long a novella is versus a novel. But it is. You could read it. Certainly in a day. I think the audiobook is like 5 hours or something. It is not a long book. It is incredibly easy to read. Like, that is deliberately so. It's told through the eyes of a teenager who is he is well. So this is the controversy of the. In fact, let me. So the book is obviously, it's called The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime. It is a book within a book. The protagonist is writing a book about a curious incident of a dog in the nighttime, where you find out in the first chapter this dog is dead, and this child is adolescent, young adult, is writing a book about that event, and it's sort of framed as a mystery novel. It's not a mystery novel, but it kind of takes the reins of that a little bit in terms of structure and plot, but most of it really is about sort of insight into the mind of Christopher, the protagonist, who is so the author apparently in one of the blurbs of the book previously said he has Asperger's syndrome. He is certainly meant to be depicted as someone with additional needs, but is a very bright, clearly a very bright, capable young boy. This is where it gets a bit difficult, and this is why I was in two minds about reviewing the book. So I should kind of stress, the book sort of follows his life, and it's really about insight into the mindset of this boy, but also about his background, about the kind of difficulties and challenges that his family has faced to sort of raise this boy, and there's more to, I guess there's more to his situation than it seems. And part of the book, it's a bit like a part of the appeal of the book, I guess, is that because you're seeing it through his perspective, you kind of get an insight into a child's perspective of adult ideals, if that makes sense. So more complex adults, things that you wouldn't necessarily share with the child, the child is picking up on them, and he doesn't quite understand them in the way that you would as an adult. And this sort of goes back to the point I was saying about the position I'm in now, compared to when I first read it, is very different, and you can really see, I guess, some of the things the author's trying to draw out about the challenges that the parents and the family faced with this child. Now, I would not consider myself an expert on this, on sort of this topic, so autism, Asperger's, that kind of thing. Obviously, I know people that suffer from it, but I certainly wouldn't say I was an expert. Or suffer might not be the right word. Sorry, I don't mean to. That might sound pejorative. I don't mean it to be pejorative. I just mean that there are people that go through this, and and it creates challenges for them and for the people around them. So I think that the difficulty with this book is reading. So when it came out in the early 2000s, I think a lot of people saw it as this kind of beacon shining a light on people with additional needs, people with spectrum disorders, those kind of challenges, the challenges they face, the challenges their family and the people around them face, and how they're still, like they are, they should be treated as you should treat anyone else, of course. And so, but I think at the time it did a lot for people going through that. Now, reading it now, where we have developed quite a lot in terms of our understanding of this in the last 20 years, I think people might be offended by it now reading, and I mean kind of justifiably offended, in that it just perpetuates stereotypes. Like, this boy, he doesn't understand emotions, but he's very good at maths, he's very good at logical problems, he can remember everything, he's got a sort of a photographic memory, he structures everything, he likes to see a timetable, he likes to understand his day, he really gets science, and he's very interested in the universe and maths and those kind of things. And it felt a bit like the author was just trying to pick every stereotype out of the hat and put it into this little boy. And what I found out later on is, he claims, so I think in the initial blurb the author claims that the boy Christopher is suffering from Asperger's syndrome, and that is then later removed because I think he doesn't necessarily, he doesn't actually fit that criteria very well, I think based on experts talking about it. And then I was reading a few articles. So there was a autism charity that was talking about this book, and it was basically saying this didn't do a lot of good in a lot of ways because it just perpetuates stereotypes. But then I've also read reviews of people saying that it got this out into the open and made people think about this more at the time. So I don't know, but what I do know is that the author didn't do any research on the topic. He just picked out these kind of traits and then said this was Asperger's syndrome without even really understanding the medical literature behind that at the time. And now at the time, the medical literature behind that, I suspect, is nowhere near as comprehensive as it is today as well. So I'm sort of in these two minds about whether or not this is a positive book about showing the challenges that these people face, or if this is actually sort of doing more harm by making people think that there are these stereotypical traits that these people have that that make them super geniuses and very good at maths and able to multiply sums in their head. That literally happens. There's literally a bit in the book where a guy asks him to do 250 times 471 and he does it in his head. It's that now just feels like a bit I don't know, pick an adjective, a bit sickly to me, but it's a very easy book to read, and really the family dynamics, just for me, the unique-ish experience I had of having read it when I was about a child similar age to the protagonist, and now reading it as a father with a son who's a similar age to the protagonist. It is just very interesting to see it from those two different perspectives. I think a lot of you may have read this. It was very popular at the time. It's so short that it's not particularly challenging to read. I think you should read it, but I think you should just, and I think if you keep in mind that the author did not research the condition that he says that the boy has, although then takes back that he says that the boy has. I think if you keep that bit in mind, and that bit that the people diagnosed with these conditions you are not in any way all the same or have all of these traits that make them super geniuses or anything. Obviously everyone is different, and you know that is true of people diagnosed with Asperger's, with autism, with all of these things. And I think you just need to keep in mind when you're reading it that